Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty Show and our second roster review today. This one is for Steve S. in his, if you're not first, your last league. This one I am actually in, so we're going to rely on Matt English's perception here, or at least Steve will probably rely on Matt's perception a little better than mine, but I will do my best to be as impartial as I can, not make him, making suggestions for him to do all his trades with me, at least. But yes, as the title of the league suggests, this one is winner take all. It's just a 10-team start 11 best ball league, a little half-point tight end premium, and yeah, so Steve here, he earned the 102 in this league last year, had a little injury trouble, but we'll take a look here. As you can see, his roster right up there for you. And Matt, what are your initial thoughts?
First thing I noticed when we started looking at this roster was
start 11
that stuck out to me were a lot of the tradable assets that he currently has. And I'll address some of those here in just a second. But a lot of good tradable assets, and his draft capital is very good, so he's not in a bad position. This is also a 10-team league, so I've got to imagine it's a lot easier to come up from a bad season because the talent is so deep. One good draft and a couple of good trades, and you could be right back in the mix of things, I think. So with that, some of the trade assets that I identified pretty quickly here, one, Jordan Love, then James Cook, Zay Flowers, and either Laporta or Andrews. You could potentially trade both here, being that it's best ball, especially with the draft class that we're about to have. And then also Hollywood Brown. He just signed back with the Chiefs, ended the season well. I think there's a lot to be positive there. So there's a good perceived value with Hollywood Brown. So I look at him as pretty tradable as well. The reason for these trades is to get max value out of what you currently have. So I guess what do you want to look at first here? Do we want to look at the bigger moves, or some of the smaller things?
Well, to start with, from talking with Steve about this roster, he's definitely most concerned about his wide receiver room. That's the room, or at least in the startup, he didn't pay a whole lot of attention to, because he thought he was getting value in other positions, which, as you can see, it's not like this team is barren. He's got plenty of guys like Stroud, Love, Young at quarterback, JT and Cook at running back, Flowers. But Flowers is like his only receiver. Tank Dell totally tanked in value and performance this last year. And then he drafted, he took Laporta a little early, so that kind of set him back at wide receiver by going for, Laporta, Taylor, and James Cook were earlier picks where he could have taken at least one more wide receiver maybe. So that's the main thing that he first wanted to address. And then, as you mentioned, Jordan Love, he was asking last night about whether he should trade Love or Stroud.
First of all, I own Zay in multiple leagues, so I'm pretty fresh on this.
What do you think he could
Chris,
do with Zay Flowers?
And Zay was a guy that I started trading almost as soon as the season was over, or at least putting out feelers and trying to get a feel from the market. And then ultimately, I have sold every share of Zay Flowers I have, not because I don't believe he's a good receiver or that he won't put up good numbers. It's just where his value was, where he was drafted in that 2-year window. He was almost valued exactly the same 2 years later, and I was going to be making profit on him, selling him at pretty much the same value 2 years later. So that's why I did it. Pure value moves here, right? And so in some of the ways I did that, I'll give you two instances. One, I traded him for a pick straight up, and then in another, I down tiered and picked up an extra pick. And I think, based on the concerns of Steve in this league, I think the down tier is probably the play. It's also best ball, so you can down tier here and get some guys that every few weeks they're going to put banger weeks out for you, right? Which in best ball is just as equitable as guys that just have that consistent floor. So let's take a look here at Mojo. Is it Magic Man? Whoever. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a
Yeah, I'll bring
couple
up
of
Magic
options
Man,
here that stand
Mojo's
out to
team
me.
first.
One is
There you
Khalil
go.
Shakir, and then
Go
right
into
below
what
him,
you thought you saw
is
here as a
Rashid Shaheed.
possibility.
I like both of these options because it is an absolute down tier. Now, what you get back on top of these guys reflects in their actual value. So with Khalil Shakir, he's in a great spot. He's contractually sound in a pretty darn good offense where you know he's going to be highly targeted. I think that was very evident this year. That being said, he's got about 1,000 points higher value than Shaheed. So what you ask for and get on top of Shakir to down tier from Zay Flowers is going to be less. That goes without saying. But maybe you're able to get a third when it's all said and done on top of getting Shakir if you're down tiering from Zay Flowers. The move I really like, though, is taking Rashid Shaheed because I feel like you can get a future first on top. I feel like you can either get the 26 or a 27 first. And because they're going to be playing next year, it's okay to wait a year or so on the pick. So those are the two looks I would look at down tiering there. And then the other one would be with Burrowhead County there, Foss. I know Foss. I know he likes to trade, so this could be the move for you as well. And this was a move I looked at. So he's got Marvin Mims, and that's a guy I would target. I think he's a great best ball receiver. He has high spike weeks. Yeah, he has some weeks where he's not getting into your roster, but when he does, it's well worth it. So Marvin Mims is a guy I would look at down tiering. It's another one you could probably get like a 27 first from this roster. That's what I would be gunning for, is the 27 first and Marvin Mims here. And then if you can't come to some conclusion there, maybe you work something out where you're comfortable with a 25 and a 26 second. I don't know. But that's what I would lead off with, is the 27 first and Marvin Mims here. Those would be my two suggestions on the Zay Flowers and kind of starting to address the receiver. You're going to draft one this year, more than likely. So to add another piece just by coming off as Zay Flowers and getting an additional pick, I think is well worth the move here. And to be honest, either way you go here, if you got Shaheed or you got Mims, those are both spike week guys, and you're getting a pick on top of it. I think you can't go wrong either way there.
Yeah, I agree. I think these are great down tier moves for any of these guys, Shakir, Shaheed, or Mims. Shaheed and Mims are basically almost identical profiles. Both of them have those great spike weeks, and like you said, the potential is there to gain an extra first. You know, if he's got to kick back a third or something, or another mediocre body, then fine. But I think that Mims and Shaheed are the great spike week guys. Those are the two that I would try first, and then Shakir if those don't work out, because Shakir and Flowers are pretty similar profiles now. They're both in good offenses. Shakir not quite as explosive as Flowers, but he does have that sneaky. You know, there was one touchdown late in the year where he weaved through the defense and got into the end zone. So Shakir is a very sneaky add in a lot of dynasty formats, not so much the shallow formats, but in the deeper formats, Shakir is a very solid, wide receiver 4 or 5 for dynasty rosters where you can pretty confidently start him just about every week. If you're starting 4 or 5 wide receivers, Shakir has that sneaky startability. Now this is best ball, so you're going to get more of a floor from Shakir.
Yes.
But again, if you're able to add a second on top of Shakir for Flowers, I'd take that all day. So let's move on to the let's address his quarterback position then. Secondly, where he's sitting on 3 starting quarterbacks. He's got 2 guys who he took with his first 2 picks in the draft, in the startup, and that was Stroud and Jordan Love.
Man, that's
so.
I mean, good down
what
tier.
Are you
I would probably
seeing
just
there?
try to
Down
sell
tier?
him and look for the most value I could get in return, quarterback or not. So, what team was it that was their quarterback situation's pretty rough?
So there's the team that
Yeah.
he mentioned he was looking at going after was down here. Chris Avant. Avant is in trouble at the quarterback position, as you can see. He is sitting on Aaron Rodgers, and that's about it. He's got Joe Milton and Aiden O'Connell there, which aren't likely to start, at least at the beginning of the season. So, he's sitting on Aaron Rodgers, who's without a team. This guy needs help at the quarterback position. He does have the 103 pick, but is that the route he really wants to go? Grab Cam Ward or overpay for Shedeur Sanders? I don't know.
Yeah.
I would think that Jordan Love, especially, I know he's a Packers fan, so.
Well, I mean, this is kind of something we've talked about before.
Up,
whereas
the 103
the cheapest you're getting a quarterback is when you draft them.
For
Otherwise,
Love.
here we go, right, with the trade value, and you're going to overpay. But he actually can come off his 103. I mean, you're going to have to pay, but do you want to overdraft a quarterback in this year's quarterback draft? I don't think so. I wouldn't. I'll tell you this: I own the 102 in several leagues. I'm not taking a quarterback in the top few picks. I'm just not. I think there's much better value to be had there. That being said, this is a place I think we're in agreement. You could trade a Jordan Love, get a pick and a player, or picking a player here for Jordan Love. Yeah. And he wants receivers.
Yeah, I suggested
So,
Rashee Rice because his value's down
asking for the
from
pick
where
and
I think it
receiver.
can rise
He's pretty
to.
sound here. And look, actually, he's got Riche and Xavier and Justin Jefferson and Chris Olave. I mean, he's in pretty good shape receiver-wise. To ask for, what is it, start 2 receiver? What is it? Or start 3? Start 3? Plus 3 flexes. Yeah.
Start 3 plus 3
Yeah,
flexes.
no, I get it.
So you can start up to 6. I mean, it's best ball. So I mean, he's got bodies down there that'll get into the lineup, and
No,
Adam Thielen,
Michi's still in Houston.
Mechie, if he keeps the same role there with Houston, right? He didn't move. He's still in Houston.
Yep.
Yeah, so Mechie's going to be battling Christian Kirk basically for the, second target option there with Stroud. So he does have Stroud, so maybe Mechie's somebody to have thrown in on the deal if Avant isn't buying the selling of Rashee Rice. Then you get Mechie thrown in,
I
both
mean,
for
you
the
could come off one of your
103, the
tight ends as
26
well
first,
here.
and Mechie.
He's got 4 of
kick him
them. He's got
back,
Laporta, Andrews,
a second or third rounder.
Isaiah Likely, and Taysom Hill. I mean, you could throw Andrews into the mix if you wanted to. Can they start? You can start up to more than one tight end. So, and he's got Njoku,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
maybe Sanders is something that works next year for him. But outside of that, nothing.
Yeah, he could start up to all of
Nothing
them.
really doing. Right, Schultz. Schultz is still in Houston. Higbee's not much. I mean, it's a
Right.
thought. It's
Well,
a thought to
Gesicki
throw something else in
re-signed
there that's got a
in
little bit more
Cincinnati.
value that could help him.
So
That makes his team a bit better as well. But, I mean, for both teams, even for Chris Avant, I mean, to be able to get a quarterback here, move a pick, and player is probably
yeah.
one
So
of
I
the
would,
better
yeah, I
deals he's
agree.
gonna
I would
find.
look at
Yep.
for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
If we go back up to Steve's team, then here, you feeling good about Bryce Young? Just hang on to him.
That's what I'm saying. Okay,
He's got
so
Xavier
maybe you
Legette
throw,
there. Maybe he could go after
maybe
JT
you throw
Sanders
like
then.
Andrews or Likely,
There.
one or the other in.
I don't know
to
that
bring in
the
JT Sanders.
Panthers are.
If you want to stack it that way, I personally like Jatavian. I think he's going to be great. He flashed last year before his injury. He was moving. He was a
Okay.
red zone target. He was getting a decent target share for a rookie tight end. I thought he was looking very good. So it's not a guy that.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you give him Likely, I mean, Likely's valued more, so you actually could get something back on the backside there. Another
From a
small
production
pick or
standpoint,
something.
too.
Because I
Again,
see
it's just giving you
Sanders
the
and
ability to
Likely
stack with
could
the
be
quarterback
very.
that you're keeping.
They're very similar, honestly.
But yeah, that's what I would look at there.
Right.
And then the other thing I would address is James Cook. How many touchdowns
Yep.
did he score last year? 20 something? Yeah.
Way more than expected. I think it was I think he had 20 with the postseason.
Yeah.
It ended up being 20 total. It was like 16 on the ground and maybe a couple through the air during the regular season. So that's something, yeah, that definitely isn't very sustainable. Plus, then you're going to have a contract situation there where he's, looking to get extended.
Yeah.
And he's
Exactly.
coming to the table with, hey, I scored all these touchdowns. And the Bills are like, yeah, well, we can throw in Ray Davis and he's going to score 15 touchdowns in this offense. So, I mean, if I'm the Bills, I'm not paying somebody who only gets like 15 touches a week. I'm not paying him Saquon Barkley money. I just can't see the Bills forking over for James Cook. So who knows where James Cook ends up then in the future.
Yeah.
And
maybe
he's more than likely to score just 10 touchdowns this season than he is to get back up to
that's
15.
unsustainable. So it's
And when you have it was over 35% of his points were scored off of his touchdowns, that yeah, it's
right.
not very sustainable. So that will drop his 5,400 value. Plus, on top of that, you have all these rookies coming in this year where
Well,
you're
and
going to
look,
have
here's the other.
probably
It'd be one thing if they were
4 or
goal
5
line
of those
totes.
rookies right away
But
come
they
in
use
and be
Josh
pretty
Allen
close
as
in
their
value to
battering
Cook.
ram. So
I don't know.
it's
I'm
not like
not-
we can say it's sustained. I mean, most of his touchdowns come on the ground from 20 plus out or 15 plus out. That's not sustainable, right? So goal line plunges, sustainable. 15, 20 plus yard touchdown runs, not sustainable. So, and look, I think he's a great running back. I think he's underutilized in Buffalo, in fact.
Yeah.
But that being said, his value's at a peak right now, and that's why I say sell. That's it. And I say sell now because, like you mentioned, once the draft happens and we see landing spots and then we evaluate where they go in the rookie draft, there's going to be 4,
Yeah.
5, maybe 6 of them that are valued equal to or greater than James Cook. And that sinks his value a bit and makes him harder to trade than it is now. And so I would be looking for a running back needy team that, and I would even take future picks on it. I would take a 26 first. Absolutely. Because you're going to turn around and draft one right now. You're going to get your replacement for him immediately.
Well,
and you have
here.
Jonathan Taylor, so it's not like you don't have a
You know, he could go right after Avant here too, because I just noticed like James Cook and Rashee Rice are just about dead nuts even
I'm
in value.
I'm right with the value on
as
there.
we
I could
speak
go either
right
way.
now.
Either one
I'll
of them.
take Rashee Rice.
I think
over
I'd rather
James
have
Cook all
Rice,
day.
knowing that
So
I'm going to get way more production
there's
in
one.
25 than I did 24. Hopefully. So
yeah. Yeah, right. But yeah, normally I don't look for one-for-one deals, but that would be an ideal situation here for Steve, considering that he needs wide receivers. He can pick up running backs through the draft. So I think that's one move he could try and make as well with Avant, on top of doing the Jordan Love scenario we just came up with. Let's take a quick look at the WAR before we get out of here. Those are a lot of moves there that are very solid to help this squad out. If we go, I gotta scroll up here. Here's the WAR for this league. As you can see here, not quite as drastic as the previous roster review he did with the running backs. They're getting half a point per carry in that league, but in this one, nonetheless, the running backs still in this range right here, right there. So that's about running backs. Here, let me get onto this so I can bring up some of the names. But you're looking at running backs 6 through 20. All these guys, they're all well above the wide receivers in that range. So we're talking Joe Mixon way above A.J. Brown, right? James Cook there, who he has, well above Terry McLaurin. Jonathan Taylor, who he owns, well above T. Higgins, okay? So those are just instances where in the majority of leagues you would think those guys would be even, like one for one, right? But in this league, the running backs are definitely above the wide receivers. So and the fact that he can grab a bunch of running backs in the draft, that would be the plus there for him looking at the WAR tool.
Right.
The quarterbacks really drops off because of it's a 10-team format, you know. So after you get outside the elite quarterbacks, they're really right starting here. You really have a flat tier of quarterbacks where they're all pretty similar in value. That would be when you get to, you know, the likes of Jordan Love and Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams. So down tiering from Love even to the guys in this range.
Yeah,
Trevor Lawrence.
Geno Smith doesn't even have a starting gig yet.
Geno Smith.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd want to down tier that much from Jordan Love to a Geno Smith. I wouldn't recommend that, but just to give an example of the value here in the difference of the running quarterbacks and Joe Burrow, those top tier guys, what a Jordan Love or CJ Stroud has to do to become a top 5 quarterback like Burrow. They've got to put up 4,500 yards and close to 40 touchdowns, and I don't see that happening because CJ Stroud, yes, he's got Nico Collins, but he doesn't have a T. Higgins on the other side. Jordan Love doesn't have anywhere near that talent that he's throwing to in Green Bay. So, I'd be willing to get off of either of his top 2 quarterbacks. Love is probably the one that he can afford to get rid of or more easily.
Well, Jordan Love also had a
tradable
much
in this
better
league, knowing
season.
that a lot of these guys in this league are Packer fans. Just knowing that's context that matters. We're in leagues with guys from Houston,
I
and,
think it's okay.
and the Houston players are easy to trade.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, I just going back to his team now.
RB11. You gotta sell. Sorry.
Let's bring it up here. There we go. So, yeah, Cook is definitely somebody to get off of right now. I love getting off of Zay Flowers as well. Steve's not far off. I mean, yeah, it shows he's rebuilding and everything, but I mean, in overall value in the league, he's 4th. Now, if you look closer at that, though, he's right in the middle. He might be 4th, but the team above him is 7,000 points ahead, whereas Steve's 4th. The guys who are 5th, 6th, and 7th are not far off. Like Fossboss here is only 2,000 or 3,000 points behind him. So the league has kind of built a couple of tiers here as far as team value goes. So Steve should look to gain value, just overall value first, and he can really do that if he's able to pull off what you suggested with Jordan Love there. Where he gets the 103 and a future first. That'll give him an extra couple thousand in value, get his value going, and then try and address the wide receivers that route. Again, it is best ball, so you don't have to win with top flight elite wide receivers, because you can get elite wide receiver weeks out of guys like you were suggesting, Marvin Mims and Rashid Shaheed. When they hit, they're scoring 25 points in a week. So if you get enough of those guys, you can really still perform well. But again, when he's sitting on 2 guys like that in Tank Dell and Christian Watson, who are going to get him zeros every week this year, really makes it hard to try and build a contender out, at least for this season. So he really, as long as he's looking for the 2026 season, I think he could build something up here. And the Raiders just signed Raheem Mostert.
Time to hang it up, man.
To be Ashton Genty's backup.
No, I think this one's pretty clear.
So any
that
more
we've got
thoughts
some
on this
high-value
one,
guys
Matt?
that we need
Final
to move
closing
off
thoughts?
of. Get a couple more picks. Get a few more assets that are going to hit down the road. Down tier a little bit from your most valuable receiving asset. I think this is in a good position. Hopefully we can get some of these deals done. But I think if we execute those deals, we'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, and the key is to be the initiator. You've got to be out there going after it. to get the trades done. You can't just sit back and hope that people are going to give you what you need. All right, you got to go after it. Tell them what you are looking for exactly, right? Hollywood Brown, you mentioned him, getting rid of him. Go out there, say, just put him out there. Anybody want to give me a third for him, right? That's the way you do it, and I think that Steve's got the players here that he can make some moves with for sure. So just keep in mind out there, if you want a roster review, let us know. Join the Patreon. It's just $3 a month. You get the rookie rankings, some other additional numbers and analytics that we throw in as well. And you can get a roster review done like this by Matt and I. So we want to thank you for joining today. It's been a pleasure. Steve, I hope this helps out. I know I'm in this league, and I'm willing to wheel and deal with you as well if they can't get any of those other deals done we mentioned here. So for Matt, we want to thank you in the Birdhouse, and remember, never stop working.